Alright, well, welcome back to Broke Review HQ, and I just saw Fantastic Four, and not bad. Not bad at all. Compared to the last movie I saw in theaters, I Know What You Did Last Summer, light years better. Light years better. So, this is the fourth superhero movie I have seen this year, and the last three I have seen have all been good. All of them have been good. Captain America was the only one that was a little bit of a disappointment, and that kind of sucks because I liked Captain America. I even like Falcon being Captain America, but I feel like the film got let down a lot. The story probably could have been fixed. They could have done some different changes and it would have probably worked better, but not here for that. We are here for Fantastic Four First Steps, and yeah, I could probably get into this and go on and on and on about it, but the movie starts off with a little quick rundown because even if you know the superhero, they still give us a origin story of some sort. They still tell us how they went to space, got their powers from there, and then the last 4 years they have been taking on all types of challenges and obstacles and villains. And I like how they have mentioned obscure villains that some people don't know, like Mole Man and the guy with the orangutans, who I don't even know that guy. I can't even think of what his name is, but I know he was supposed to be played by John Malkovich, but for some reason they cut him out of the film. I don't really know why. I also really liked that they gave a nod to the first comic cover. Like, if you've ever seen the first comic cover, there is a scene in the movie where it is exactly like that, and I thought that was a real nice touch. I really enjoyed seeing that. That was kind of cool. I did enjoy a lot of the references that were going on in the movie. I don't know, I might have I know I missed a bunch of Easter eggs, but I'm pretty sure I heard Michael Chiklis, I believe was his name, who played Thing in the 2004 movie. I believe he was the voice of the cartoon in this one, he was playing the cartoon Thing in this one. I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me. This is just me going off of from what I remember seeing in the movie, but it sounded like him a lot. Not 100% sure. But yeah, like, they give us that quick rundown of their origin story and everything like that. We find out that Sue and Reed are pregnant and are going to finally have a kid after giving up for 2 years. They tried early, nothing was happening, nothing was working, and now they finally have a baby. So yeah, trying to get ready for the baby, get everything set around the house, baby-proof the house. Basically, Reed is trying to baby-proof the world so that he knows his kid will be safe. But with all that going on and them getting ready to have dinner, all of a sudden there's like this meteor shower that comes out of nowhere, and you find out this is the Silver Surfer, and she is basically just telling the world, like, get ready, be prepared, say goodbye to those you love and everything like that, because Galactus is coming and your world is doomed, So obviously the Fantastic Four do not want that happening. Obviously nobody wants that happening. So they don't know what to do exactly, but Reed, being the scientist, he doesn't want to guess and just assume what could happen. He needs to have facts. He wants to base his stuff off of stuff he can analyze and figure out from there. So they decide to track the Silver Surfer, and as all that's going on, they were getting transmissions from outer space, from other planets, and Johnny thinks this is obviously important because he's trying to study the language, trying to figure it out. We don't know why he's doing it or what he's even thinking of, what he's trying to do at the moment. He's just trying to work on something to help the team. So they end up going out to space, traveling and tracking down the Silver's, where she ended up going and everything like that. And they finally get to a planet where they can see Galactus, and they see him basically destroying the world from the inside out. Something I noticed, that I know with Galactus, he can change his shape, where he can go big, he can go small if he needs to. He doesn't do that in this one, which I thought they were going to do, but they ended up not doing it at all. He just stayed one side. So they go, the Herald, the Silver Surfer ends up, leading them to Galactus because they got trapped in there. They couldn't get out of it. So they figured it'd be better to try and negotiate with Galactus instead of sneaking around and just trying to beat him there. They'd rather just talk to him and see if maybe he can be a reasonable guy. But Galactus is tired of eating planets, this hunger that he is on. He doesn't want to do this anymore. He is exhausted from it. You can tell that he is a beaten man and he just wants to pass on this hunger to someone else, which he finds out that Sue's baby, Franklin, is a cosmic power. He has this cosmic power and he can handle the responsibility of being the eater of worlds. And obviously Galactus doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to do it, so he wants to pass it on to Franklin. Well, obviously Franklin and Reed, or Sue and Reed, are not going to allow this to happen. They say that's way too steep of a price. We're not doing that. So Galactus somehow, I don't know how the hell, I didn't even know he had this power, but he was able to make the baby come a whole lot sooner than what it was supposed to be coming. And so now they got to get out of this ship that they're in to get back to their ship, and hopefully Sue doesn't have the baby while they're in Galactus' ship. So as they're trying to get away from Galactus, trying to get away from the Surfer, they end up getting through and sending the Surfer in a black hole, which came real close. So came up real close to them almost going into the black hole. So as they're trying to get away, Sue ends up having the baby. They bring the baby home. Everyone's asking, hey, what's going on? Are we about to be eaten? How did you beat the Galactus? And, Reed's like, we didn't. But Johnny and Ben are there to tell him, like, hey, but we will beat them. Don't worry. We will figure out a way. And, like, everyone's still worried. Like, are they safe? And, like, Reed's like, I don't know. I don't know at this moment, As he's trying to analyze, trying to figure out every possible situation, and the main problem he's having is, like, the only good plan is to give up their baby. And as horrible as a thought that is, Sue was like, I don't like that that's one of your thoughts, and I know you, Reed. Like, I know that you're thinking about it and that it's processed through your head. And he's telling her, well, of course, because I'm going to think of all the worst outcomes so I don't have to go to that outcome, I want to be able to save this family, but I have to think of the worst outcome and the worst idea so I can get that out of my head and I can think of a better one so I don't have to use that as a resort. So, going back to earlier in the film where he was using a transportation device where he was sending an egg just a couple feet away, but with how much juice it was taking out, never looked at it as a real possible idea. But when Sue has her speech about how she's not giving up the baby and how having her baby is important to her, especially after her and Johnny's parents, their rough start of growing up and losing one parent and the other parent just being a drunk, like, she's telling the whole world basically that, like, you guys are our family, you guys have been there for us, we have been there for you, we are going to figure this out together. And that gives Reed an idea to have the world basically teleport to another area, to another solar system, which by the time Galactus gets to them, they won't be there anymore. So that's what they're trying to do. So they have the entire world come together in building these teleportation devices and saving energy so they don't lose energy when they do it, and they have enough juice to send them to another solar system. And just as they're about to do it, they come so close to doing it, and that's when the Silver Surfer comes and starts destroying them all, leaving only one, obviously the one in New York where they're at. So Reed's new plan is, instead of sending the world to a new solar system, let's send Galactus to the new solar system. And obviously they have no idea how they're going to get him into this area because they only have 37 seconds to get the thing open before it closes on them, and how they're going to do it, they have no idea. So Reed has a plan. Sue knows that he has a plan, but obviously they don't have any other options. Ben and Johnny hate the idea of it, and, but it is their only option. They have to use Franklin as bait, basically, and get him to have Galactus draw in so they can turn on the switch, get him out, and send him away, hopefully to die, or just to get him out of their hair, basically. as that's all going on, Johnny has a heart-to-heart with the surfer, telling her, I learned your language. I learned everything that I could from, the messages. And he ends up making her feel bad, and she ends up revealing that she ended up having to sacrifice herself to save her planet. And now Johnny's just trying to do the same with his. And he's like, I'm not going to let my nephew... I'm not going to sacrifice my nephew. Like, let me do it. Let me be the reason why my family and my world is safe. And she basically tells him, like, it's not your choice to make. You're not the one that he wants. It's Franklin, and obviously if he was older, he would do the same thing and sacrifice himself for his world. So, but he ends up making her feel bad, and, like, she can't take the thought of that she is the main reason why all of these other planets are destroyed and gone, and how many people she basically killed, by leading Galactus to them. So she ends up losing it. Galactus finally makes it to the planet. Galactus basically has himself focused in trying to get to Franklin, but by the time he gets to the thing, he realizes, okay, the baby ain't there no more. I know where this baby is. So all four of them are trying to do their best to get Franklin safe, trying to get Franklin back, and it's up to Sue basically to show off why she is so strong and powerful, and she's basically just pushing Galactus with her powers all the way back to this thing, as all four of the other guys, the other three are trying to do their best to try and get Franklin. It comes down to the very last seconds of getting him pushed into this teleportation device, get in this teleport spot. I don't even know what the hell you're calling it. I sound really stupid because I cannot think of what the hell it's called. But yeah, they finally get him pushed in there. Reed's able to save the baby. Sue, unfortunately, basically exhausted herself to the point where she killed herself in a essential way. They're able to get her in there. Johnny's able to... Well, Johnny tries to make the sacrifice of letting, going through Galactus and knocking him back in there while taking himself. But the surfer knocks him out of the way, and she ends up sacrificing herself to save them and ends up sending Galactus into the teleporter. And basically, the day is saved, but Sue is dead, which we all know Sue ain't dead. We all knew this wasn't going to happen. They're not going to kill off one of the main members of the Fantastic Four, but they do it so you can see that Franklin really does have cosmic powers, and he is able to bring his mom back to life, and that's basically it, they end up, having the Mole Man help them too, getting the people out of the evacuation area. Like, the last two movies I have noticed of superhero movies, they have had a lot of evacuations, having people evacuate the city and stuff, which, that's funny because back, most movies, they didn't give a shit. They were destroying the whole city, destroying everything. People were probably dying. And now the last two movies, even the last three, actually, I even think in Thunderbolts, they tried to evacuate people out of there, which they didn't do a good job because they didn't know what they were up against at the moment. But it's just interesting now that heroes are actually trying to save people and not just trying to beat the bad guy. It's a very interesting twist that we've gotten going on there. But anyway, let's get into the pros and cons of this. The pros, I liked the effects. I felt like they were done pretty good. I know Marvel was very hit or miss on some of their, even in Captain America, that ending scene with, Sam and the Hulk, that whole field just looked so fake, like you could tell they weren't there. I know in Ant-Man and the Wasp, the Quantumania movie, MODOK looked like crap. I know a lot of the effects were looking horrible and they were not looking good, but in this one, it looked good. I liked how they looked. I liked how how Ben looked in this one. He looked pretty realistic, but at the same time, you could tell it was CGI, but it looked good, though. I liked how it came out. Sue and Johnny, I thought, were the best characters in this movie. Sue basically was the driving force of keeping the family together, keeping them going, making them better, trying to help Reed, realize that he's not the worst at his job, and she gets him, and she understands his thinking, but sometimes his thinking is horrible. But with that being said, it's what reels him back into reality. She is his, you know, she is the balance that he needs to make sure he doesn't go too far over the edge and becomes a supervillain like the Thinker, you know, another alternate version of himself. Sue keeps him balanced and keeps him right. And Sue, basically the heart of the family, and showing how a mother will do whatever the hell she will do. She will move heaven and earth, like they say, to keep her baby safe, and she will do whatever she can for that baby. And she proved it. She showed her powers, truly. And Johnny, you know, he had some of the better funny moments. I thought his definitely hit more than most of the other jokes. Johnny also, you know, showed that he was valuable to the team, you know, showing that he, you know, wanted to help by trying to figure out what this language is. They kept pushing him off like, no, the language doesn't mean nothing. You're not helping. You just want to go talk to your sexy alien friend. And he's like, no, there's something here. We got to figure out what it is. And he kept going until he figured out what the message was, learned her language, and did everything he could to also try and help, you know, his family here. If any little bit of help would have helped at this point. I also like the action scenes. There wasn't too many in this movie, but the ones that they did have, they were good. I thought they were well done. I enjoyed watching them, especially at the end when you got to see all four of them use their powers. You know, some of them obviously didn't help too much, but they still were able to show off what they could do and what they bring to the team, and it was very enjoyable to see them come together at the end and use their powers well. I also liked the retro look of it. I liked, you know, the setting that it was in. It was the futuristic 60s type look. I really enjoyed how it looked. It felt like a whole new world, you know. It felt like it was its own thing, and which is also another pro, that it's its own thing. It's not, there's no reference really to, you know, Captain America and what he did in his movie, or, you know, the Void just taking out people and bringing them to this area. Like, there was none of that really in this movie. It was set in his own style. It had its own thing. And, like, I feel like that's what they need again. They need to make their movies their own style, you know? It needs to get back to where this movie is an action scene. This movie is a drama. This one's a spy thriller. This one is a comedy like, stuff like that, you know? Changing the themes of them and making them their own movies is a nice way to have them stand out and make you care about it almost, you know? It makes it a little bit easier to watch because it's its own thing. It's doing its own world. Like, yes, they are connected to the whole MCU, but they also have their own world and their own stuff going on, which I like that. Cons, Pedro, I felt was really held back in this movie. I felt like Pedro just did not bring his A game. I don't know if it was a directing note or if they just told him to reel it back. I don't know if he was trying to do something else, but it felt like he was just, you know, shackled and he could not break into what he wanted to do and try something different. It felt like he was very restrained and he had to basically play this simple, basic character, and I'm sure he really didn't want to do that, you know. It seemed like it just seemed very restrained, and it was sadly probably one of the worst Pedro performances I've seen this year, you know. Pedro usually brings the A game, but it just felt like they were holding him back in this. Like, it's not the worst thing of all time, but it's not memorable at all. It's very forgettable. It felt very weirdly paced. Like, it felt like in the beginning, up till we got to Galactus, it felt like it was moving smoothly, going at a steady pace. Then we get into the middle of the movie where it seemed like it just hit a standstill and was going slow, moving slow. Then we get towards the end and it moves back to going fast again. Like, I don't know if they were just trying to do too many different ideas and try different things, and it just didn't pace well and they couldn't get it to run smoothly, but it just felt like it was chopped up, like, fast in the beginning, smoothly, then we slow down to like rock steady a little bit, then we speed it back up. Like, it felt a little off, unfortunately. It just didn't seem like it jived well enough, you know. It felt like there was just something that didn't go perfectly well. And this is just a small thing. I really wanted more of that Fantastic Four song. I really enjoyed that theme that they had. I liked hearing it. I thought we were going to get more of it, like, in the end of like maybe the action scenes or something like that, but we didn't get too much of it at all. Like hardly at I don't think I really heard it hardly at all in the movie. Maybe like once, maybe twice. But I was hoping we would get more, especially like at the ending of the movie. I thought we were gonna get it. So that was a small gripe. And then like another small one I had is like you really didn't get much characters driven. Like you don't know why Johnny does the things he does. Like why does he like space? You kind of get a small idea of like why Sue is so strong about family, but like you don't understand like Reed's understanding of why he needs to protect everything and know everything. You don't get like much of a backstory between Ben and him and why they are the best of friends and stuff like this. You know, it's almost like they were just colleagues that worked together and just became good friends that way. You wouldn't know that these guys grew up as best buddies or anything like that. But overall, I thought it was still a good movie. It was a solid movie. I'd have to give it a B for this one. I don't know if I'd say it's better than Superman or if Superman's better than this. I'd have to definitely go back and rewatch and see which one I feel is better. And also watch Thunderbolts and see which of the three is better. Obviously, Captain America is a very low one for me of the superhero movies. But yeah, don't know what I'll have out in the next one. It'll be kind of a shocker. I might see Naked Gun. I'm not 100% sure yet. But yes, we also have the Ninja Turtles watch along that's on Fridays. So check that out. If you want to see any other shows or even any other movies you want me to tackle, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you thought about the movie. Want to hear your opinions. What did you like? What did you not like? What were some things that made you enjoy the movie? Or if you just didn't like it at all, let me know. I'd like to know why you didn't like it and stuff like that. So, or if you feel like this is the worst version of the Fantastic Four and you liked, you know, the 2004, the 2015, like, I'd like to hear all that. Let me know in the comments. And until the next video, I will see you soon.